We have our annual NFL head coach rankings at CBSSports.com. Find them all there. Andy Reid is number one, by the way, still. But let's focus on the first-year head coaches. And not first year ever, but like with Mike Vrabel, getting another opportunity after the Titans position. Now he's with the New England Patriots. Aaron Glenn, back with his team, the New York Jets. Only a couple of those guys inside the top 20, and that's Vrabel and Pete Carroll, who's with the Raiders now. So Sportsline's Mackenzie Brooks is going to give us win total projections from the Sportsline model. Mike Renner is going to tell us if said coach is going to go over or under that number. And let's start with Mike Vrabel and the Patriots, Mackenzie, who many believe could make a big jump this season.
Listen, I know I'm probably going to catch some heat for this. I think they make an improvement, a jump. I think a 50% increase is a pretty solid projection for them, but that still takes them to around 6 wins for us. I think the line set at 8.5 is a bit wild. I think 6 is likely where they'll land. I mean, I think Drake May is great, and he's an improvement here. But again, like, he's what, a top 9, maybe 10 quarterback? I mean, look at a team who won 9 games last year in the Bengals. That's a top 5 quarterback, a top wide receiver. You have a leading sacker, and they only got to 9 wins. So, like, we're trying to call this team the Bengals. Like, I think there will be improvements. I absolutely do. And I think Mike Vrabel's a great coach with a great young quarterback. But again, that takes you from 4 wins to 6 wins, not somewhere closer to double digits.
Yeah, the Patriots are one of the hardest teams to project because they're just a completely different team. Like, there's really no continuity from last year to this year. 4 new starting offensive linemen, brand new starting wide receiving core, brand new starting running back, 5 new starters on defense. Like, it's going to look so different. But I think that's all different in a good way. They've added about as much talent as I've seen a single team add in an offseason. And you can even apply that to the head coaching position, where I think Mike Vrabel's a big upgrade. So for all those reasons, I really like their over. And then you just throw in they got a pretty easy schedule on top of that. I'm a big fan of that over 6.2.
He's ranked 1 spot ahead of the only first-year coach here with a Super Bowl title, and that's Pete Carroll. He's with the Raiders now. I went back and looked at his win totals, NFL and college, throughout his career. The last time, Mackenzie, he failed to win 7 games as a head coach, 1994 with the Jets.
Yeah, we are basically right in line with odds makers here with this, around 6.9. I mean, I think there's so many things you can so easily improve on with this team because the bar was so low with specific categories. Like, obviously, you're going to improve at running back when you were a historically terrible run team. And even the turnovers that they had last year, like Geno Smith just being more of a game manager type of player will obviously help that team. Even just having more short yard passes with Brock Bowers, and you get Genty out of the backfield as well. So I think that was such a problem for them that will improve this year. So just a few statistical categories that are so easy to improve upon that obviously will help improve this team. But overall, I think it still puts them around that 6 to 7 win mark.
Yeah, I like them going over this number. I like them as being one of the most improved teams in football. One, because the adults are now in charge. You know, Pete Carroll and also Chip Kelly, offensive coordinator. I don't think the difference between the last regime and this can be understated. It's going to be completely different in terms of how prepared they are week in and week out. And Chip Kelly, what he can do is scheme up a running game. You know, maybe his passing concepts haven't aged well from his time in Philly, but what he did in the running game last year at Ohio State was spectacular, led them to a national championship. And now with Ash and Genty and with pretty good offensive line in front of them, I think they'll be able to dictate terms. And then, oh, by the way, Geno Smith, he comes over from the Seattle Seahawks, a true franchise quarterback, even though he's up there in age. I think you're going to see a big difference in this passing game. So for all those reasons, I think they go over this number, maybe not make the playoffs, but I think they're a much better team this season.
The highest ranked first-year head coach is Ben Johnson of the Chicago Bears. He was the offensive coordinator of the Lions. Comes in at number 24 overall, Mackenzie. A lot expected of him and the Bears, but a lot's been expected of the Bears for a few years now, and nothing's happened.
Yeah, that's the tough part here. Like, I think, there is a reason that no quarterback has hit 4,000 yards, and a lot of it has to do with being in Chicago. And I think the world of Ben Johnson, I think it's a great move. But we have to remember, Detroit still averaged 4 to 5 less points on the road. Like, playing in that dome was great, and I think spending money on Ben Johnson is awesome. But You know, you could have used it towards a dome too, and you probably would improve this team in this season as well. So I think there are improvements, but they do have the toughest schedule in the league in our eyes, basically tied with Detroit here. And once you hit that week 10 mark and you hit like that November weather, they're either playing at home, which is super not ideal in November, or they're going to these other really competitive places in cold weather. Minnesota, Philadelphia at that time could be hard too. So this is more a play on the schedule that they have. I do think this team improves with Ben Johnson, but you have to look at the weather, and that's a reason why this Chicago team sometimes struggles.
Yeah, I think this is a really fair number because the division is so difficult. The toughest division in football was last year. It's going to be even tougher this year. But I do think the ace in the hole is Ben Johnson. When I watch what he schemed up in Detroit over his time there at offensive coordinator, it's right up there with Kyle Shanahan. It's right up there with Sean McVay. It truly might even be better than those guys in terms of his week-to-week game planning ability to get that offense to show up every single week. And the night and day difference from the Chicago Bears and what Caleb Williams was used to a year ago in terms of scheme working to his advantage will be so massive. And the bevy of talent that he has at his disposal, I just think that if you can get up to an average or above average offense, which I think is easy with all the talent they have, they got the defense to at least win this number. So I'm going to go over if I had to bet on this.
All right, Mike's gone over on everything so far when compared to Sportsline. As we head to Duval, Liam Coen, first-year head coach there. They've got Trevor Lawrence. They've got Travis Hunter. But they're coming off a 4-win season, Mackenzie. What does the model say?
The model thinks they had a lot of bad luck, like some really just balls that didn't go their way. I mean, they had 9 forced turnovers last year. And to put that into perspective, teams like Minnesota, Pittsburgh, they had 33, the teams leading. So I'm not asking them to be Minnesota or Pittsburgh. I'm asking them to get closer to league average, maybe suck a little bit less in forcing turnovers, which is something I think they're capable of. Obviously, even if Travis Hunter plays, 35% in cornerback, like that still is improving this team and improving this defense. So I feel a little bit more optimistic on this team. I'm super, super high. The Sportsline model is super high. I'm Brian Thomas Jr. here, over 6.5 receiving touchdowns, if anyone wants to clock that in at home. But again, I think there's some upside here, but we are basically in line with the odds makers, putting them at 7.4 wins.
Yeah, the overs aren't going to stop here, Chris. I like the over on this one as well. And why I say that about all 4 of these teams is because the difference between the last coaching staffs and this one, I think they all hit their hires out of the park, especially this one when you're pairing Liam Coen and what he did last year with Baker Mayfield and that Bucs offense, now to Trevor Lawrence, who's really never had, 1, weapons in his career, and 2, an offensive coordinator that was kind of at the cutting edge of NFL play calling. That's what they have now in Liam Coen. And I do agree with what Mackenzie said. This defense was historically bad. 4,600 yards through the air allowed last season. It almost can't be worse, right? So the talent is there for it to succeed. It just, I thought, was schemed up. They played way too much man coverage without the cornerbacks to do it last year. That will change, and if that changes, I think they go over this number. Average projection for these first-year head coaches is right around 7. The Jets haven't won more than 7 games in a decade. How about Aaron Glenn this season in New York, Mackenzie?
We're pretty optimistic about this team. I think they're closer to 7 wins here. You see their line around 5.5 when you look across books. But listen, I mean, they were so good in so many underlying defensive stats. It was honestly odd that their points allowed was so high. Like every other stat deeper than that would imply like a 19 points per game allowed type of defense, and for whatever reason it was closer to 24 here. But I think their defense should stay the way it was. Obviously you have a lot of returning production here, and then you add Fields, who is an upgrade from Rodgers. I mean, you just look at all the offensive stats blindly, blind resume. This should be an improvement, especially on the ground game.
Yeah, this is the first one I'm going to go under. 1, because I think it's a difficult division with the Patriots on the come up, obviously with the Buffalo Bills there. And 2, because I just don't trust this offense. They do not have the weapons outside of Garrett Wilson to move the ball through the air. And yeah, I think they're going to run the ball effectively, but I don't think it's enough to really scare me and to say, they're going to win 8 or 9 games. So to me, this is my first under. I'm going under for that Jets number. Finally going under there, and it might be more of the same with the Saints and Kellen Moore, the new head coach. Now, as an OC, he's had Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, and, well, he's had some good quarterbacks throughout his career as an OC. What's he going to do with Tyler Shuck, Mackenzie?
I think you must see something in him. I mean, you must not draft a quarterback in the second round if you have planned on tanking for a guy like Arch Manning, right? So that move tells me they're going to try through this season. And I think there must be some upside with him. And we think the world of Kellen Moore as a proven offensive coordinator. So there must be something he likes. But why we like them and why we have them at almost 8 wins is because they have the easiest schedule here. And that was a similar situation last year where they ended up going 5-5, bearing some injuries on that team. But there are some solid weapons here. I mean, you have Chris Olave, even Alvin Kamara, all of these guys. If you have Taysom Hill healthy, there's a lot of potential for this team. But again, if we put them through like a Chicago schedule, we'd say they have 2 wins. This is really just about the schedule they're given.
Yeah, I'm going under on this one. The quarterback position is just far too unproven. I think Kellen Moore himself is a little unproven at this point. 3 different stops at OC between Dallas, LA, Philly, and none of them ever had like top-notch offenses. So with the quarterback position as young and unproven as it is, I just don't see the Saints team putting up enough points.
One more, and it's Cowboys' first-year coach, Brian Schottenheimer. He's been an assistant for nearly 30 years, Mackenzie. I got to imagine that the win total projection is the highest of all the first-year coaches because we expect a lot of the Cowboys every year.
Exactly. We have them dancing around that 8.5 number at 8.2. The odds makers are implying. And listen, I mean, this is a lot of the same core from that 12-5 team 2 years ago. What we're asking this team to do is not go 2-7 at home. Like, sue me to believe they can maybe go 5-3, and that's literally taking you from the record you had last year to going over your win total here. So I'm a big fan of George Pickens here when he has one-on-one coverage and he has a quarterback who actually wants to throw the ball, and this isn't a run-heavy offense. I just think that opens up so much for himself and Lamb. So big fan of this offense, and I do think there's a lot of upside with the Cowboys.
I'm going to have to go under here as well, just because, one, the division is very difficult. They are quite easily the third fiddle behind the Commanders and the Eagles in that division, and the Giants, don't sleep on them. I think they're on a big come-up this year with all they've added to that defense, and I just don't think they fixed their run defense woes with what they've added this offseason. I think that's still going to be a big issue, and I worry about that offensive line and pass protection for Dak Prescott. It's so young. Guys like Zach Martin, Tyron Smith aren't walking through that door anymore. The old vets that we've come to know, that dominant Cowboys offensive line that Dak Prescott relied on, I just worry that it's not going to be there.
All right, Mike Renner and Mackenzie Brooks with us here looking at first-year head coaches in the NFL. Thank you so much. Mike is on the very latest Pushing the Pile podcast with Kyle Long, looking at the top 10 position battles heading into camp and why some of the second-round picks haven't signed their contracts yet as we head into training camp.